Hello everyone, it's going to be a little bit different video today. I'm going to show you my crafty space. I was a little hesitant to do this because I do not have a beautiful crafting room. It's not all put together and decorated and painted and all that great stuff, but it's what works for me. It's what works for my family, more importantly. And it's a space just to get creative and somewhere where I can shut the door when I'm done so I can contain my mess. When we first moved into this house, we were adding another baby to our family. So we had 2 kids. Previously, we had only had 1. So I always had an extra bedroom that I could turn into kind of like half playroom, half craft room for my son and I. And we would spend a lot of time in there. But adding another baby meant taking that extra bedroom, turning it into a nursery, and now my little girl's bedroom. And we have a bonus room, but with 2 kids is a little bit more important, especially with friends coming over now and that kind of thing, to have that bonus room be a playroom dedicated to toys, and we've got a chalkboard wall and that kind of thing. So we made it more functional for our life right now instead of just me enjoying it. So with that being said, when we moved in here, I thought, you know what? I will just take my craft stuff. I'll keep it in like little totes and that kind of thing, and I'll pull it out whenever I want to use it at the dining room table. We found out really quickly that that was not going to work for me. I am a messy crafter. I need somewhere where I can kind of let loose and let everything sit overnight. I also am a mom first, so if I have 5 minutes, I can go in my room, and then I need to be able to shut the door on that, because the 5 minutes later I might be in a kid emergency and have to deal with that, or I've got to run somewhere or take somebody somewhere. So I have about 5 minutes here and there to work. So picking up and putting away, that would be all of my time. So we were sitting in the living room one day. I was looking at Pinterest and I showed this picture to my husband. We live in Iowa. So in our house, we have a very large coat closet off to the entryway, but we actually don't use this entryway. It's more, so you walk in my house and it's a small entryway, but over to the right here, or I guess it would be to the left when you walk in, there's just this little entryway. Right now, I just open the door and here it is. It's a larger closet, so I do have a nice window in there and whatnot. But one problem we first found out when we started this little project was there is no outlet in this closet. What we had to do was actually take out, this is going to be a little bright, but we had to take out the light fixture, and my husband replaced it with a light fixture that is also an outlet. He took that, plugged in an extension cord, and then he ran this just along the wall and hung up an extension cord right there, so I can plug in things like my printers, actually use my phone, so a lot of times I'm charging my phone or a tablet if I'm watching things, and I just have it all plugged in right there, so it's easy access to my desk. Now, one thing you will notice about my craft room is everything in here is to be temporary. I did not want to put anything major in here. If we ever do decide, well, we will move eventually. This house is just going to get too small for us as my kids grow. But what I don't want to decide, a year or 2 down the line that it's time to sell. Not everybody wants a craft closet in their house, and I totally get that. The majority of people are going to use this as a coat closet. So I wanted it to be easily everything taken out of there. All I need to do is fill a couple holes in the wall. It's not going to be a huge deal. I can also paint it, that kind of thing. So whenever he hung this up, I actually just taped it up against the wall, so that way I can just tear it down whenever it's time to move along to the next adventure, I guess you could say. So there is that. Another thing is, this is not a lot of space. So instead of kind of spreading out, I need to spread up. So you'll see a lot of my stuff is really high up on walls, that kind of thing. And I also have this Raskog. This is a new addition. I got this at IKEA, and I'm probably gonna get another one because it just is such a great little thing. So I open my door and here's my little closet. all I have to do is take out my little cart here, roll it out. It's wood floor in here, so it's not that big of a deal to roll. It rolls really nicely. And then I just leave it out here in the entryway as I'm working. When I'm done, all I have to do is take this, turn it around, and just roll it back in there and shut the door, and it's all contained. So this was a nice little addition, and again, if I ever do want to grow, I have space for actually probably a couple more, and then I can just roll them out as I need to. Now in the top of this, I have all of my coloring mediums. So I've got my chalks, pastels, I've got watercolors, I've got my OMS, markers, sponges, watercolor markers, more watercolor markers, pencils. I also keep my paper trimmer and my Misty, my large and my mini back here. I use these all the time, so I kept these on the top shelf. That way if I need it, I just pop it out. When I'm done, I pop it right back in. I've got some brushes back there too. So all of my little coloring mediums are up here. Now on my second shelf, I keep, let me get down here, I keep all of my little Nuvo drops. I've got some extra little pieces of my creative corners that I don't use quite as often. I have my creative corner pieces actually in my closet, but those are like the ruler and the triangles. I don't use those as often, so I keep these in here, but they're still handy. I keep a larger acrylic block that I don't use as often. I keep some Nuvo drops. I keep some liquid glues in here, my envelope punch board, some extra Misty grids. I couldn't think of what they were called. I keep rubber cement, and then hairspray and alcohol. You wouldn't believe how often I use these in my craft room, so I keep those in there. My Prismacolors and also PH Martins are down there as well. So that is my second thing. And my daughter gets into these a lot. So the majority of the time, keeping these contained in here is the best thing, because then she can just kind of throw them in and take them out as she wants to. She uses them for like little play makeups in her purse. Now down on the bottom, I've got an extra little mini Misty here that I have not opened yet. But then I've got all of my Crafters Workshop acrylic paints, and I've got some mediums down here, some gessos, all different things. So this was all in my design team kit. Now these are great to have, but they also take up quite a bit of space. So I needed somewhere to house all these. So the bottom of this is great. And then if I need to add more, I just kind of stack, and that is what it is. It works out great on the bottom there. So once that's out of the way and it's time to come into my closet, sorry I'm not the best at videoing, but you can see I kind of move up and over. Just give you a regular idea of what this is, but I'll go through more in depth of everything. Off to the left here as I walk in, I have got these two carts. Now I have had these for years. They're older. They were actually in when I had an actual room, so I had a little bit more space, but moving into here, they just fit up against that corner so well. It doesn't leave me a lot of space to kind of walk through, but I'm cool with that. I'm the only one that's really ever in there. And then if my daughter or something wants to come in, I just pop her up on the desk over there on the left, and she sits over there and she'll help me. So I keep these off to the left. I have all different kinds of things in here. So on the top here, I've got extra envelopes. I've got some sewing things in there. I've got my coffee filters, extra fun foam that I use for popping things up on cards, more canvases that I have projects for, so I have those ready to go. And then I've got some fun foam back here. Now behind these two, really quickly, I want to show you, this is where I keep all of my photo boards, so things I take pictures on, and this keeps them nice and sturdy and then just not gummed up at all. I can just pop them out whenever I need them, no creases or anything like that. Over here on the top of this cart, I keep all my extra little pieces of cardstock, so I've got some acetate and things like that, just extra little pieces. I like to use as much as I can, so those stay in there. I also have my Bible over here, and then underneath that I keep my 16x9 Crafters Workshop. These are home decor stencils. I just keep them clipped over here, and then I keep all of my little stencils ready to go. So I've got some more projects coming in with these. These are really great to make some really quick signs. All right. So in both of these carts, I have a bunch of different things. And in this first one, I keep all of my embossing powders, glitters. I've got some of my smaller containers of foil over here, and then baker's twine. There's also a jar back here. It's like a little takeout container that I saved because I have a thing about getting rid of plastic. If you can reuse it is what I say. So I actually took one of these little takeout containers and filled it with all of my old brads, eyelets, things like that. Things I don't use very often. I just threw them all into one pot, put them in there, and that way if I ever need them, I still have them. I don't have to go buy more. I also have a big thing of gilding flakes, that kind of stuff. That is what I put in that drawer. My second drawer is pattern paper. I do not have a lot of it. This is what I have right here. So I've got a few 6x6 pads. And then whenever I first started scrapbooking and card making, I did not know my style. I'm just like everybody else. I started off buying it all, right? So I thought I would go to the store and I'd look at all this pattern paper and think, oh, that's pretty. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. So I ended up with a ton of it. What I decided to do when we we didn't really downsize, but we added another member, so I downsized my craft space. But I just took all of my 12x12s, I cut them up into 6x6 pieces, and I would save like 1 or 2 pieces of the pattern paper, and I got rid of the rest. So this is all of my little pieces here, so I have it if I need it. Rarely do I ever use this, so I also have a few different punches back there that I rarely use. This is all of my Joy Claire stamps and a few of my favorites over here. This, I guess I should say, this isn't all of my Joy Claire stamps. These are some of the more seasonal ones. So I pull out different seasons and just different ones that I'm not going to use as often. I keep down in here, and then I can just kind of flip through them as I need to. Back here I've got some extra ribbon, and then behind that I've got buttons. Rarely use those, so I just keep those back there. Down here I have really downsized my stamp collection, and I am in the process of putting all of my stamps into stamp pockets. So right now it looks kind of a mess, but that is a work in progress, and I just keep them all in here. This bright tray, my very top one, is inks, and I have all smaller ink pads, smaller distress inks in there, but my Catherine Pooler and my VersaFine Clear, those I keep collecting more and more and more of, especially the Catherine Pooler. I think I'm going to have to go ahead and get an ink holder and hang that up on the wall for those, because those are just some really great ink pads and some really great colors. Down here I have all of my Crafters Workshop stencils, 12x12 and 6x6 in this little guy. Next up I've got my tissue paper, more of my what are those called? Page protectors. And then I also have a hair straightener. That's what I use as my craft iron because I don't straighten my hair anymore. Below that, it's mostly just paper. So I've got some papers in here. I don't use those very often, and they just kind of stay in there. And then down here is what I use for taking my photos besides my larger boards. These are more like, you'll see it, 12x12 papers. I just keep those in there so I can flip through them and take out whichever one I need. Now right here, this is where I keep my laminator, my Big Shot. I've got some of my favorite stamps in there. Let me get down here. But I have my Joy Claire stamps. These I keep new ones that I haven't used yet. So like this one I know is new and I need to use it, that kind of thing. And then some of my favorite ones. So I've got like my Hello Simpsons. That's one of my favorite. I also keep some of my favorite stamps back here. So I've got like an alphabet, my waffle flower line stamp, that kind of thing. I also keep newer things in here, things I need to use. So those stay in there. And then back here, I've got some of my digital stamps that I have printed and cut out. And then I just keep them in this bag, and I can pull them out as I need them or go through and decide I want to make a card with one of those. So right next to here, I have my Cracker Box and Susie stamps. You can't really see that, the sun's shining in. But I keep these in a binder in pocket, card pockets. I got this idea from Justine Hovey. She has another video on her space. She actually doesn't have a room, but she uses her bedroom as a craft area, kind of like a little space. She has some really great storage ideas. I will leave her video link down below, but this is where I got this idea from. Then next to that, I keep all of my dies, and I just keep those in a little thing that I can flip through. I've also got some felt scraps back there. And then this is a built-in. This is one of those things where I didn't want to take it out the built-ins in here because chances are people aren't going to use this as a craft room. They're going to use it as what it's supposed to be, a coat closet. I also, when I first got this idea to change this into my little crafty area, I thought about, before putting anything in here, painting everything white. But then I was like, well, I thought about my crafting style, and I'm like, I know I'm messy. I know I drop things. It's probably not a good idea for me to paint everything and come in there, because inevitably I'm gonna have to paint this again. I mean, you can see just right here, I've got scrapes on the wall from pulling things in and out. I've got literally up here black paint splatters. I mean, there's even a blue one. See right there? So I know I'm gonna have to repaint this, and I don't like to paint. So I've got to paint other areas in my house. I don't need to paint this right now. So I left it. And I left this, and I'm glad I did, because now pulling in and out things, you can see how much I've just kind of chipped away. And if this was painted, this would be about a million times worse. So I'm so glad I waited to paint these guys before, or wait until, you know, I'm kind of done with this area. So I keep my big kick down here too, and I just pull that up on my desk. My desk is literally 2x4s that my husband has screwed into the wall and then put a piece of plywood over. Now this can lift up and come out very easily. So yeah, and then whenever we first put this in, my plan was to paint this all white, which I'm glad I didn't again, because I found a better way to make this work and something that I can change out. And what I decided to do was actually take this desk, and every about 6 months, I just kind of take this piece of plywood out and I wrap it. This time I used gift wrap because I was out of butcher paper, but the majority of time I use like that kids roll of stuff that you can get at Michael's, and I wrap my area with this. And then I found too that my sweaters and shirts and things, as I was leaning up against this, after a while the plywood would start to peek through, and it would kind of pill up my shirts and rip sweaters and things like that. So I took some tape. This is basically duct tape. I took it from my husband. So, but it's just black, so it doesn't show near as much stuff. And I just covered the edges, and I covered over here so nothing would slide down the little crack that is, and back here so I don't lose any little die cuts or dies or anything through the sides. And this has really helped. This is also interchangeable, so you can see I'm kind of dirtying up this right here, but this lasts about 6 months, and then I just tear it off and change it out with and start with a fresh new sheet. I also keep up on my desk my little space. So this is what you always see. I need to get a new one. It's a little bit dirty and gummy, so I'll need to change this out soon. But this is my little craft mat that you guys always see. Over to the right here, I've got this little thing. I just keep odds and ends in here, an extra ponytail holder to pull my hair back, some extra masks that I haven't used yet. I just pop them in there, and then I have some extra pieces of white cardstock. I also keep extra die cuts. Sometimes I just dig through here and make cards from what I have in there. And then over to the left here, sorry if I make you dizzy, I'm not that great at recording, but you can see just how much I have dirtied up the walls. And it's not even purposeful. You know, like I'll go to sharpen a pencil and I don't know what I'm doing. I just try to sharpen the pencil and it ends up on the wall. I don't know. So I have my pencil sharpener back there. And then I also have this little guy. He keeps my spray bottle with my water that I use to wipe my stamps, and then an extra cloth in there. This is just a big towel that had a bunch of bleach spots and that kind of thing on it, so I actually just cut it up and use it in pieces. I've got the extra in my little cart down there that you've seen, and I keep my blending stumps in there since I use those so often. I also keep my blacking pads, so my VersaFine Clear, my Memento, my dye, my VersaFine. Since I use these so often, I keep them on my desk. And then underneath I have my Versamark. I also have my little to-do list and stuff over there. They're big. I don't even want to look at those right now. But, all right, above my work surface, this is going to look like nothing to you. But to me, this is like my inspiration. A lot of times when I come into my craft room, whether it be at night or I have 5 minutes during the day or whatever, I come in here and I play. And I come up with new ideas and new techniques that I want to video. So these are my little practice pieces, and I know they don't look like anything right now, but to me each one is an idea. So I'll take this piece, I'll tape it up here so I remember that I need to video this technique. So over here you'll notice this one. This was my watercoloring. I'll leave that video linked, but this is watercoloring and putting your stencils down with rubber cement. And I left this like it is, so I knew I needed to mention, you know, you need to wait until it's dry to remove so it doesn't smear. I keep all my little notes on the back here so I can just pop it off. This is another idea. This is another idea. This is another card design. This is actually like 3 techniques that I have. I just test them out to make sure they'll work. So I've got another couple card designs. This was a thing to make sure inks would layer on top of each other. I'll leave that linked in the top right hand corner because that card's done. And then these are some techniques that I played around with, and I've got these ready to go. So I know I need to go ahead and film with those. And that's how I use my inspiration. So above that I have a shelf, and then this is my little, these are metal, which is kind of like a blessing in disguise. I didn't even mean to do this, but these can hold my creative corners, all my little extra magnets. They just pop right back up there and they stick and stay out of my way, and I always know where they are. I do not lose them this way. Also, I keep, these are kind of like little hangers, so I keep little extra towels and stuff hung up there so they're off my desk and I don't get any ink smears. So this is the shelf right above there. We'll take a good look at it. I keep all my papers up here. I've got some Misty card boxes, extra white cardstock. I keep foils and stuff for any of foils, laminating stuff. Keep my larger packs of deco foil, watercolor paper, computer paper, heat safe acetate, more page protectors. I keep all my neutral cardstocks that I use the most often here. So crafts, creams, browns, blacks, grays. Also keep vellum in here. And then I've got all my white cardstock over here and my little board that I do heat setting and watercolor on. This is just kind of a catch-all box. So I've got my hard drive, different things in there. I've got my extra hooks for my pegboard. I've got paper clips. I've got some extra tape, and then my Post-it notes over there. Back there are cards that either need to be sent out, they have a purpose, they need to be taken photos of, or they need finished. So those are all different projects back there. Then over here, you'll see this little blank space right here. And actually, this is where I sit my phone. I record on my phone, and I pop my phone up here and let it kind of hang off the desk. And then I look down right here, and that is where you guys see. So I always say you do not need a fancy setup. You don't need a DSLR camera. You don't need a tripod. You don't need all that stuff. I literally use a shelf and my phone to do my recording. It's really that simple. Then right to the right here, I have my little turny guy, and I keep my little sanding blocks, just all different kinds of things in here. My acrylic blocks stay in here. I've got my blending things. I've got my Stamp-A-Majig, brayers, that kind of things in the center here. I've got my knives, all that stuff. So that stays in there, and that way I can just easily kind of flip this around if I need an acrylic block and just pop it out and pop it back in when I'm done. That way everything stays nice and neat. Now I also keep some extra adhesive. Say I have a little piece here that I just didn't use all of it. I just pop them up here, and then if I need a little piece I can snip it off and I've got it ready to go. Over here I've got extra pieces of tape that just haven't kind of lost their sticky yet. Now my husband also put up this pegboard for me. All it is a pegboard that he's cut down to size. These are really, really cheap at a hardware store. We got some little hangers, pegboard hangers, and then 2x4s that are into the wall. Make sure you put them into studs. Now up here I have the heat gun. I don't use this very often, but like my little girl has a bunch of rings that have little jewels on them, so sometimes those fall off and need to be hot glued back in, so I keep that out to fix toys and jewelry and all that stuff. I've got some masking paper, and then behind that I've got the larger paper tape. I've got extra blades, I've got more adhesive, I keep my scissors really handy right there. I've got more envelopes, just stencils that I don't really use that often. I've got more my palettes. These are just pieces of cardstock that I laminated. I've got my little sticky guy there that's for pet hair. I use it for glitter, but I've got masking tape and painter's tape, more tape and enforcers. I've got my rulers that I hang at my T-square and my Tim Holtz. This is a little thing where I use the Crafters Workshop stencils, the 16 by 9 that I showed you earlier. I made this little sign with them. It needs to be photographed, and I hung it here so it wouldn't get bumped and stuff. And then I've got my little palette there. Also, over to the right here, I've got this little hanger that I just put up. It's nice and sturdy in there, and I hang a plastic bag on there, and that's where I put all my trash. And when it's filled up, I can just take it out and switch out the bag. Very, very simple. I keep extra adhesive hung up here. This is actually built-in coat rack because this is a coat closet. And then above that, I keep cards and stuff that people have sent me and just switch those out every once in a while. Up at the very top, there's another built-in. It's a shelf, and this one's pretty tall, so I kept things up here that I don't use very often because I need to get a stop stool to get them. I've got some extra, or not extra, but those are cards I've made up there that I just keep in little shoe boxes. And then I've got my scale, that little piece of paper that you see hanging out. I take that in and out as I need to, just because if I don't put that up there right underneath the light actually is too harsh, and then you can kind of see my shadows. So that takes away a little bit of the brightness without really dimming the light, and it takes away the shadows. So that was my fix to that. Then right up over there, I've got photo props. I've got my little box that I use for spraying things with. I actually need to bring that down and use it more often so I don't splatter my walls crazily. And then I also have a printer and a scanner up there that I don't use very often, but that one's Wi-Fi, so it can just connect to the computer automatically, so I just leave it up there all the time. I've also got my embossing gun that I hang up on a little nail over there, and that pretty much is my craft room. Now, this works for me. To make this work, I really had to think about what my crafting style is and what I need. So I am very selective when I buy things. I do not buy a lot. I do not add a whole lot to my craft room. I know my style is clean and simple. So every purchase I make, I need to make sure that it's something I'm going to use and use fairly often to use up a certain amount of space in this small area. I know some people have great big craft rooms, and that's lovely and that's great, and you can fill them up with all sorts of things. But if you do not, and you don't have that kind of space, I get it. This is my space. It's very small, it suits me, and it really made me think and find my true style. Also, before I close out this video, right outside my craft closet in my entryway, so I'm always kind of looking at this when I turn around, I have other things I've made, and these kind of go with my home decor, but I made these so I get to look at them all the time. This right here is a mirror collage that I put together. It actually, it's a replicate basically of one I seen on Anthropology, but that one was about $500 or $600, a little out of my price range. But if you want a tutorial on this, I can always do that. These are way easy to make, and yeah, super easy to make. And then right below that, I have a bench that is in the entryway too, and that is, again, I seen something in a Pottery Barn magazine, I believe, or maybe it was on Pinterest online. I know it was Pottery Barn though. I love the bench, but again, out of my price range, so I made my own, and those plans are way easy too. It's just a few screws and 1x6s and 1x4s, I believe, and that's all that is to make that bench. Super easy. So if you want the plans for that, or if you want a tutorial on making that mercury glass, I would be happy to do so. They're super easy little projects to put together. But that is my little crafty closet. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Happy crafting.